Alright, what's up everybody? We're in the shop today and we're going to be starting a project that's going to require probably the use of some chisels. So it's something I've been putting off for a long time, and it is repairing some antique chisels I have. So you can see the handles aren't on them. So these are some old chisels and they're in rough shape. They have handles, of course, but they were super rusty. I put them in evaporust and got all the rust off of them, and you can see actually the line there. That is where the high carbon steel meets the mild steel. So we have a lot of life left in these chisels, but on the ends of them, some of them are pretty beat up. So we're at the belt grinder. This is a 180 grit belt. Now, the way I'm going to start off, I'm just getting the backs cleaned up. Now you can see on this one, I don't know if you can see it, but it's actually bowed a little bit this way, and you can see because it's taking off material here, but right at the tip is not. So I'm going to press down a little bit harder on the tip, just like that, to get that flat. Then we're going to come and we're going to straighten this off, and then we'll do this bevel here. So let's do that. Alright, so that's pretty cleaned up, and you can really see here, probably, you can see how bad this is. So what we're going to do, we've got a combination square. It's antique too. But what I'm going to do is just place the chisel like this up to the end, and that's going to help us see if we're straight, perpendicular to the sides. So first I'm just going to freehand it to get it down a little. One thing, I have a bucket of clean water over here. As it warms up, we'll dip it in the water just to keep it cool, because we don't want to overheat it and mess up our heat treat on our steel. Matter of fact, since I have a lot to do, I'm going to put the work rest, the table on here, and that's going to help us out a little more. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to put our combination square. We're going to put this is just a piece of brass. I'm going to push combination square up to the belt to where it holds the brass in. We'll tighten it down. Take this out. That'll give us a little bit of a gap in between the ruler of the square and the belt, so we know it's not going to sand our ruler, but also it'll let us know that this is perfectly perpendicular to the belt. So when we hold our chisel against here and feed it up into the belt, it's going to make this edge perfectly perpendicular to the sides. So let's do that. And then we could check it on top. Just push it up and look at the edge. Needs to come a little bit more. Tiny bit more and it will be good. So I'm still holding it flat. I'm just pushing it up, and when it's even with the ruler, we know we're good. Alright, so now all those are square. Now we have to, that one's been done a little bit. We have to grind down this bevel here. And we may do the sides, but mostly I'm just concerned with this one here. And then we'll take it to the stone. So you see we got a lot of meat to take off of this. And we're basically gonna remove the table and we're gonna hold it against the belt. When we find that angle, it'll kind of sit there like that. So we'll just use that existing angle to grind against. So for this, we're gonna set it on there and we can feel it kind of lock into that angle. The reason I'm keeping my thumb back here is, one, is to hold pressure on it, but also to feel it as it starts to heat up. Then I know I need to dunk it in the water. So that's down. You can see it's probably like a 32nd of an inch still. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take the rest of that away with the diamond stones, because as it gets thinner, it heats up a lot quicker, and so you have less room for error in damaging the temper. So we're going to stop here, and then I'm going to do all the rest of these off camera, and then we're going to go over to the bench and use the diamond stones. Alright, so at the table we've got our diamond stones. I've got 300, 600, and 1200 grit. And this is just a little holder, keeps it from sliding around. We have our honing guide, and then we have these little things that I 3D printed. And what they do is you can put the chisel in the end, and you can see this one's 25 degrees. It's got a 25 right there. Put it in there and say that's 25 degrees. There's one for chisels and one for plane blades, plane irons. Stick that in there and it's 25 degrees. So if we put this here against this and then put our honing guide on and bring it right up to the bottom of this, when we tighten this down, we're going to snug it up in a second, but basically now when we put this onto the stone like this, that's going to hold that angle at 25 degrees, so we won't have to really think about it. So let me get a screwdriver, I'll tighten this down, I'll get some Windex for the stone, and I'll move the camera so you can see better. Alright. Tighten that down. A little Windex on here, and all we're going to do is take this, it's got a wheel on it, if you've never used one of these. Put it flat against the surface like this. And hopefully you can see that our angle, our freehand angle, was a little bit off, so this is going to correct it. Also take periodically loop back. You You can see, hopefully you can see this. This is a line that's actually 25 degrees, and it's pushing our other line back because we were slightly off. But the edge is still thick, so we're going to keep going until we don't really care what's back here as much as the edge, right? So we're going to keep going until the edge is down sharp. So however far it pushes this bevel back, you know, it's going to push it whatever it's going to push it. I'm not really concerned with that. I'm just keeping pressure on the tip of the blade. Trying to use a good bit of stone. And it's almost there. What I'm using Windex for is just to keep the metal particles, as they wear off of the chisel, they'll get all in here, and I'm just kind of keeping that washed away so we don't have any kind of buildup or anything. And that edge is actually, if you was to feel it, it's pretty sharp now. We've taken the edge down to a really, really thin, fine edge here. It's not sharp enough for what we want to do with wood, but it's sharp enough definitely to cut you. So we're going to swap out stones. And now basically what we're doing is we're refining the edge, we're polishing it more and more with each progression of stone. Now this is our 600. All right, and I don't think I have any paper towels out here, but so basically there's not a lot of difference that you can see probably on camera, but basically this whole edge now is sharper for sure, but it's all this bevel and the backside is polished to a 600. So now we'll swap out to the 1200. And basically we do this process for all the chisels. I'm going to spare you that, having to watch that, but it's the same process either way. I cut my finger somehow. All right, now we're going to go with 1200, and I'm going to do the back first, just because. Alright, our other battery ran out of memory, but apparently I've cut myself twice, so we're going to take the same process for the 1200 grit. Hopefully you can see how it's polishing the edge up finer and finer. And it is sharp now. You can feel it actually cut me twice. Well, one, I scrubbed my pinky on the side of the stone, but the other one, it cut my finger just laying it on the edge here. So it's pretty sharp. You can feel a little burr on the back side. So we're going to hit the back a little bit, real easy. We're going to work on the front a little bit more. Not as much pressure. Now that's pretty sharp, but we want a little bit more than that. So now we're going to switch from our 1200 grit diamond stone to an 8000 grit water stone. So this was soaking in some water over there. But first I'm going to flatten it, make sure it's flat. I'm going to do that with my diamond stone. You can see it wasn't very flat, it's just wore. Yeah, I'm gonna do it this way. Man, my finger will not stop bleeding. That's horrible. I'm gonna rinse it. See, we still got a dished out spot here. Had to give me a little shop band-aid because it wouldn't stop bleeding. Now hopefully you can see the polish on this. Next time when we go to touch it up and we go to resharpen, we're just going to do like a micro bevel right across the end. We're not going to have to go through and do this whole surface, but since I'm reconditioning these, I'm doing the whole thing. So just to show you, hopefully you could see. So these things are now sharp, so even more dangerous. So I'm just going to go through the process with the rest of them, and that'll be it.